Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maggie and I upload videos on lifestyle, beauty, and fashion. If that sounds like something you're interested in, then please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. Now, for today's video, we're actually going to be talking about Stranger Things once again, season 3. If you watched my last two videos, then you guys already know that I have been doing recaps. If you guys haven't seen my recap videos for season 1 and 2, please make sure to check those out before you even try to watch this one. And then you can go ahead and catch up with season 3. Season 3, guys, this is actually one of my favorite seasons of the whole show. It was a very bittersweet season to watch. First off, I like to always start off with the main characters of the show. A lot of the main characters are the same ones from season 1 and 2, but we do have some new characters introduced in season 3. We have Eleven, we have Mike, we have Dustin, we have Will, we have Lucas, and then we have Lucas's little sister Erica, who actually has a bigger role in this season. We have Max. We also have her brother Billy, who actually has a much bigger role. Steve Harrington, Nancy, Jonathan. We have Joyce, Hopper, Murray, who was introduced in the last season. We have Karen, who's Mike's and Nancy's mom. And new to this season, we have Susie Q, who's Dustin's girlfriend. We have Robin, who's Steve's co-worker. We have Alexei, who's a Russian scientist. And then we have the Russian Terminator, as I like to call him. And then finally, we have the town's mayor. So this season is a little bit over a year after last season. We are in the summer of 1985 in Hawkins, Indiana. The main friend group are probably around 14 years old. So the season starts off with the introduction of this new mall that was built in Hawkins, Indiana. It's called Starcourt Mall. Steve has a job there. He works for a company called Scoops Ahoy, and he has this new co-worker named Robin, who's also a student in their high school, and he's actually graduated this year, so you could tell that this is just like his summer job. We also have Dustin coming back from summer camp and being excited because he has this new girlfriend called Susie Q. She actually lives in a different state, so they're doing like a long distance relationship. He's like super excited to tell his friends about her. We have Eleven and Mike in a full-blown relationship. You can see this season they're like always stuck to each other, like literally always together or hanging out or making out. And then we have Hopper, super annoyed about that. Eleven still can't really leave the cabin, so it's a lot of Mike coming over to the cabin and spending time with her. Hopper's fatherly relationship with Elle also evolved, becoming like super protective of her. We see him struggling to really create boundaries for them. We also have Max and Lucas officially in a relationship. And then this season you also see Will feeling very left out because everyone is pretty much coupled up and he's kind of like the fifth wheel, you can say, or the seventh wheel. We also see Billy have a bigger role in this season. He's actually a lifeguard at the pool, and we have all these cougar moms that are going crazy over him all summer. There's like this whole storyline with all the moms in the town just being obsessed with Billy, and every time he comes out for his shift they're like all literally drooling for him, especially Mike's mom, and Billy's just like taking it all in. We actually see Hopper's and Joyce's friendship bloom a lot in this season. You can tell that Joyce is still very like heartbroken over the loss of Bob from last season, and Hopper is just trying to be there for her, but at the same time you can see that he has interest in her. He actually tries to ask her out on a date. She kind of shows resistance and is not really interested in starting something new. Honestly, every season there's always something with Joyce. Like, she's always fixated on something. Obviously valid. Season 1 she was fixated on finding her son. Season 2 she was fixated on trying to figure out what was wrong with her son because he was possessed by the Mind Flayer. And this season her fixation really starts with like these magnets randomly like demagnetizing themselves. And first she notices at home it happens, and then when it happens at her job she kind of realizes there's something going on and she starts to like question it. And she actually stands Hopper up for their date, but the reason why she stands him up is because she decides to go and visit the kid's school teacher, like the science teacher. She basically goes to him and she's like, why are these magnets randomly just falling off? Like, why are they not magnetic? So they start going to theoretical reasons why it could happen, and he tells her that if there's a machine that's built that's big enough that could actually create some type of magnetic field and it could intercept stuff like magnets. So then she gets convinced that something is going on, and she actually goes to Hopper with this information. And you can see at first he's upset because she stood him up, but he kind of listens to her and they start to investigate. They start connecting the dots and they end up in this house where Hopper actually gets attacked by this Russian guy, and then they also run into this Russian scientist who they end up kidnapping. And in order to figure out what the Russian scientist is saying, they travel to where Murray lives, and turns out Murray actually speaks Russian, so they travel to him so that he can help them translate what the hell is going on in Hawkins. Then we also see Nancy and Jonathan working at the Hawkins Post as interns. Nancy's just trying to make it as a reporter, and Jonathan is basically trying to make it as a photographer. Then going back to Dustin, we see him coming home, having his friends help him build like a radio tower so that he can reach his girlfriend from out of state. No one really believes that he has this girlfriend, and at first when he tries to call her, it seems like she doesn't really answer. As Dustin continues to contact his girlfriend, we actually see him intercept some mysterious Russian transmission, and once he hears this, he actually goes to Steve to tell him like, oh my god, I've intercepted this transmission. He thinks there's like Russian spies. We actually see Billy getting attacked this season and also becoming possessed by the Mind Flayer. If you remember from season 2, that we also have like these rats running around town eating like all these different types of poison, fertilizer, and literally blowing up and turning into like this fleshy type of blobs. We have Lucas's little sister Erica also having a bigger role. Like so far her character has been mostly there for like comedic relief. At first it comes off as just like the annoying little sister that's always bullying her older brother or even his friends, calling them names like nerd and stuff, even though she's a nerd herself. At the same time that this is happening, we have Nancy and Jonathan running around town following the story about the rabid rats, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. They end up interviewing this older lady who actually captures one of the rats that are running around. You can see the rat is like sick and it's acting definitely very aggressive and weird. At first their boss tries to like get them to like drop the story, but once they go back to visit the old lady and they see that she started to also act weird and be super aggressive, they realize that something bigger is going on. And when they visit her at the hospital, they're actually attacked by their co-workers. So we see that when Billy becomes possessed by the Mind Flayer, he actually starts attacking people and essentially helping the Mind Flayer possess them too. And they kind of turn into like these zombies that just follow whatever the Mind Flayer wants. And Jonathan and Nancy's co-workers are actually part of what are called the Flayed. And the Flayed actually go and they attack Nancy and Jonathan. And you can see that when they die or they sacrifice themselves, they actually turn into like this fleshy blob, kind of like how the rats were turning into. They attack Nancy and Jonathan. They barely make it alive. Then at the same time that this is happening, we have Dustin trying to figure out what the Russian transmission is with Steve and Robin, who actually pitches in. And actually Robin is the one that helps them decode everything because this is the 80s. They don't have Google Translate to just figure out what's going on. Robin is like really good in multiple languages and she's able to help them translate. And then once they translate it, it doesn't really make sense because it turns out to be a code. That's when they're like, okay, there's really something weird going on. And Robin is also the one who ends up decoding the message. She figures out that the transmission is actually connected to these deliveries that are happening around Starcourt Mall. So when they follow the delivery, they end up in this elevator that's like filled with all these packages, and when they actually open up one of the packages, they realize that what's inside, it has nothing to do with the store from the Starcourt Mall, and it's like this weird liquid green thing that looks like it's not something normal. So in order for them to have actually sneaked inside where the delivery packages were being sent to, they actually had to use Erica's help because she was the only one that was able to like crawl through the vents and basically reach where they were trying to reach and open up the doors for them. So they basically involve her, and it's like we have Steve, Robin, Dustin, and Erica working towards the whole Russian spies theory, and then we have Joyce and Hopper working with Murray and the Russian scientists to figure out what the heck is going on in Hawkins. Then we have Eleven and Mike getting into an argument because basically Hopper has a conversation with Mike. He tells him that he needs to stay away from 11 instead of having like a heart-to-heart with 11 like he was originally planning on. And Mike is scared of him, so he listens, and then 11 gets mad at him because he starts to pull away. It's so cute because this season actually we see 11 and Max finally like actually have a friendship and coming into their feminine energy. And then we have like the girls being their own separate team and hanging out together, and then we have the boys separate. Since 11 and Max start hanging out, they actually start spying on people through 11's powers, and 11 ends up in Billy's mind, and she realizes that there's something wrong with Billy because one, he becomes aware that she was in his head, which is not usually the norm, and two, she sees him with a girl who's screaming and seems to be scared. She tells Max about this. Max is like, oh, Billy's always with some type of girl girl screaming, you know. But once they start to see more and more of Billy acting weird, they realize that he might be possessed. And to test out the theory, they actually get together with Mike and the boys because they want to test out the theory to see if Billy's actually possessed. So they actually lock him in a sauna and turn off the heat because we know the Mind Flayer hates heat. They see him get super aggressive and he attacks them. He's like super strong, and 11 has to defend them, of course, using her powers, and she beats the crap out of Billy and Billy gets away. And then we have Dustin, Steve, Erica, and Robin. When they were in the elevator, it ended up like going all the way down, and they realized there's like this whole secret underground Russian base, and they're like sneaking around trying to figure out what's going on. You can see they've built this machine and they're using the machine to try to open up the gate again to the upside down. So somehow the Russians know about the upside down and they set up their military people and scientists to try to open it. As they try to open the gate more and more, the Mind Flayer is able to have more and more control over people. Robin and Steve essentially get caught. The Russians start interrogating them, and then they have to end up getting rescued by Dustin and Erica. Then we have the Russian scientist Alexei basically telling Joyce, Murray, and Hopper about this machine, what they're doing. And you can tell the scientist doesn't really want to work with the Russians. He's kind of being forced to. And at the same time, they're also running away from the Russian Terminator. Eventually, as in every season, all the small mini groups gather and get together. They exchange information and realize that the Russians have built a base on the Starcourt Mall and have built a machine to essentially try to open back up the upside down, and the mayor's corrupt. And there's a bunch of people in town who are becoming possessed by the Mind Flayer, are smushing together into these fleshy blobs that eventually form out like a physical body for the Mind Flayer. The whole time it's after Elle because Elle was the one who shut the gate. At one point it does get to attack and hurt Elle, and it actually kind of like bites into her leg and it leaves like something behind. Once the kids realize and they try to help her and they're not able to, Elle actually has to use her own power to like suck the Mind Flayer's flesh out of her. And once she does this, she actually ends up with no powers. So it's basically up to the rest of the group to rescue each other. And Hopper teams up with Joyce so that they could go underground, completely destroy the machine so that the gate to the upside down does not get opened. This season has such an iconic scene that I love so much, and it's basically in order for Hopper and Joyce to break in underground to the Russian base, they actually have to figure out the code, and the code is like this scientific number. Murray supposedly knew the scientific number, but he got it wrong. So when they tried to put the code in, it didn't work. Everyone is like literally communicating through walkie-talkies as they do in every season. And Dustin finally gets through to his girlfriend, Susie Q, because she knows the scientific number. He's like telling her, oh, we need to save the world. Can you please give us this number? And she's like, doesn't really believe him. So she's like, oh no, Dusty Bun. Like, you need to, you know, basically she makes him sing the song, their song together, like karaoke style, in front of everybody on the walkie-talkie in order to give him the code that he's asking for, the number. Everyone was super annoyed by that scene because it was like literally world-ending situation, and this girl's like just making Dustin sing. But it was also such a cute scene. So they basically end up singing the song together, and right as they finish singing, she gives him the code. Joyce and Hopper get in on the ground, and they're able to do what they got to do. When they're in the middle of trying to do this, we have the Russian Terminator, as always, coming in, ruining everything, beating the crap out of Hopper, and trying to kill him. And right as Hopper kills the Russian Terminator, we have this like crazy dramatic moment at the end where Joyce has no other choice but to turn off the machine and destroy the machine herself, while Hopper is literally right next to it. So when she turns off the machine, it explodes and incinerates like everything in its vicinity, including the Russian soldiers. And Hopper, who's right next to it, also seems to have been incinerated. Yeah, honestly, guys, like I said, I love the season, but at the same time, it was very, very, very sad at the end. We have Hopper died. In order for the kids to be able to beat the Mind Flayer, we had Billy all of a sudden become aware of his consciousness. And then, so we see all the traumas that he has. And then we also have 11 make him realize who he is as a person deep inside. And then we see Billy actually sacrifice himself to save 11 against the Mind Flayer. And then once Joyce destroys the machine, that ends up not only closing the gate, but like completely getting rid of whatever power the Mind Flayer had in the outside world. So season 3 ending was pretty sad. We had a few deaths. Because of this, at the end, Joyce actually ends up taking in 11, and she actually moves with Will and Jonathan to another state. Yeah, so the end is pretty traumatic. Obviously, Max lost her stepbrother Billy. 11 lost her dad Hopper, and Joyce her, you know, her best friend. So yeah, guys, that's basically the end of the season. I hope it wasn't too much all over the place, but it is a beautiful season. Honestly, guys, I do these recap videos mostly for people who want to remember what happened before watching the new season. But if you have not watched the show, I definitely recommend that you watch it. Like, don't just go by what I'm telling you. I'm not giving you every single detail of the show. The show is amazing. Also, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and that you stay tuned for the recap for season 4, because it will be coming to you guys very soon. So yeah, guys, stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you guys in my next and final recap video. Bye!